This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and it's gaming time. Yay! Game demo on the Asus ZenBook Pro UX501. This is a 5-pound slim and light 15.6-inch call it pro laptop for professional apps, that sort of thing, and gaming. Quad-core i7 Intel CPU inside, NVIDIA GTX 960M dedicated graphics, switchable with Intel graphics for those times when you don't really want to use a lot of power. 2 gigs of VRAM inside, and we're going to test this with Battlefield 4 and with Tomb Raider, and lastly with GTA 5. And we're going to do it both in some cases at 1080p resolution, even running the desktop at 1080p, and the games at 1080p, and sometimes at higher resolution. We'll give you a mix so you can see what happens, but I can tell you right now it's going to be the problem that I talk about with these gaming laptops. The 960M is still pretty powerful. Granted, it's not the 970 or the 980, but 4K is generally too much if you want high frame rates and high settings for laptops for gaming. Even a lot of desktops is pretty darn hard. So most of the time we're going to have to run a 1080 resolution and some futzing around, running in a windowed mode borderless so it fills the whole screen instead of running in a tiny little 1080p square just in the center of it. It's a lot of hassle. Honestly, for a gaming laptop, even if you're getting a more powerful GPU, I still recommend 1080p display. But in the case of the ZenBook, you can only get 4K, and this is a really ideal machine for people who are working with professional graphics and video, need the higher resolution display to see more stuff on screen, and you want to do your occasional gaming. I think we're going to check it out now. Alright, so now we're in Battlefield 4 with the Asus ZenBook Pro UX501 with a 4K display and the NVIDIA GTX 960M. And once again, the 4K display is going to prove to be the problem here. We are running with the desktop at 4K resolution since most games aren't full. It used to be a good trick was to run your desktop at 1080p and then the game would think it was 1080p and you wouldn't have it running in a tiny window or have to run in windowed mode, which generally slows the games down more. That trick doesn't work too much. Anyway, we're testing it in 4K first, low settings. Here's the settings that we're using right now. And running a full 4K resolution full screen for better performance, generally speaking there. And we have all of our quality settings on low. We have fraps running so you can see what the frame rate is when we play the game. So not too super duper great here, but not hideous just yet. We're at 37, going down to 34. I know it's a little hard to see fraps. It's kind of tiny here up in the corner. It's a little hard to play at this frame rate. Right around 28 or so. $25. Not what I would call ideal. So next we're going to try running the machine with a desktop resolution set to 1920 by 1080 and run in windowed mode and see if it performs any better. And now, as promised, we are back in Battlefield 4 again. This time we have set the desktop resolution itself at 1920 by 1080, and inside the game we're doing the same thing. And we have to go with borderless windowed mode because otherwise it plays just in the small patch in the center of the screen. And we've even moved our graphics quality up to medium, and I think you'll see a much better experience now. Now look at that. That's much, much nicer than what we saw when we were trying to do that 4K monkey business, isn't it? That is what I call playable. So in the midst of a heavy firefight there, we're still above 60 frames, so very, very nice. Battlefield 4 is indeed playable, so you have to go through, well, a whole lot of fiddling with the settings to get here, though, don't you? That's the challenge. You're just not going to be running your desktop resolution at 4K and playing every game at 4K. You're going to have to do things like the borderless windowed or windowed mode and setting the resolution down to 19 by 1080 in this game, and there will be other games like that, too. And now we're trying out Tomb Raider on the Asus ZenBook Pro UX501. We're running the desktop at 4K resolution. We're going to go with normal settings here. And they have a variety of settings, and somehow normal seems to fall between low and high right there. And in some cases, it falls between medium and high, depending on what you're looking at. But we'll give that a go and see how it plays. And now that we're inside the game, you can see that we are running this one on full screen. Yay, we can actually do that instead of window maximize while running it at 1920 by 1080 resolution. So let's go and see how we play well with our bow and arrow. Frame rate. Well, just went from the 30s to the 60s just like that, so that's not too bad. So now frame rate's quite good. Poor Laura. So Tomb Raider is certainly very playable. Now we're doing 1920 by 1080 inside the game. 4K, I don't think you want to do it, given that we have pretty much low settings for everything right now. And we go from the 40s to occasionally capping it up at 60 frames per second. A game like this, you don't want to go below the 40s for the frame rate if you can help it. If anything, you might up your quality settings a little bit, make the visuals a little prettier. But given the fact that this is the NVIDIA GTX 960M with 2 gigs of dedicated VRAM on it, this is actually not bad for a laptop, I have to say. It's doing quite nicely. All right, now we're going to try out GTA 5. So that means some of this may be not safe for work. You know, the language that these fellas use here. We'll keep the volume kind of low so you won't get too embarrassed or corrupt your little children. Anyway, the desktop's running at full 4K resolution here on our Asus UX501. This is the ZenBook Pro. And you can see our resolution in the game is set to 4K as well. I have turned off FXAA. And for the rest of the graphics settings, we have pretty much everything turned off. Now the game still looks pretty nice, but this is the way we're going to have to roll. And we have Fraps running as ever in the corner so you can see live what's going on. And right now we're in the cinematic. Frame rate should be better. This is actually pretty darn good, considering we're running this game at 4K, even with low settings. So this is actually pretty playable at this frame rate. We got upper mid-40s here. Soon we're going to get in a firefight. We'll see how that goes. And now we got a firefight right here. Frame rate's still quite good. All right, and now we're driving on some icy roads, kind of slippery here. I expect the frame rate to be just fine here. Does anybody know why there are hay bales there on the left in the middle of winter that have just been rolled up? I don't know. It looks pretty good, even at lower quality, right? So there's GTA 5 running in 4K on the Asus ZenBook Pro UX501. This is good enough settings that I would say that this is playable. We're not going to try dropping everything down to 1080p just to see how it does, because this is pretty playable and not going to get much better. And let's go out with a bang.